Russia thought its oil routes through the Black Sea were untouchable, but Ukraine just changed the game. In a stunning strike, Ukrainian Sea Baby naval drones disabled two of Moscow's Shadow Fleet tankers right off Turkey's coast. These ships weren't just cargo vessels. They carried billions in oil revenue that fuels Russia's war machine. Tonight, we break down how Kyiv cut Russia's Turkish Straits route in seconds, why Turkey is worried, and what this means for the future of the war and global energy markets. Ukraine's latest operation in the Black Sea wasn't just bold, it was strategic, precise, and unmistakably deliberate. In the early hours of November 28th, a swarm of Sea Baby naval drones raced across the waves towards two targets Russia never expected to lose: the sanctioned oil tankers Kairos and Virat. According to an SBU source who spoke with the Kyiv Independent, these drones didn't just strike the ships, they disabled them, delivering what the source called a significant blow to Russian oil transportation. This wasn't an accidental strike. This wasn't symbolic. This was Kyiv hitting the Kremlin exactly where it hurts most: the Shadow Fleet, a network of vessels that allows Moscow to move oil in defiance of Western sanctions. Both ships were empty and heading towards Novorossiysk, one of Russia's largest Black Sea oil terminals, which made the timing perfect. Ukraine struck them before they could reload, before they could re-enter global markets disguised under fake flags, shell companies, and opaque ownership structures. The strikes didn't happen in Russian waters. They occurred off Turkey's Black Sea coast, proving that Ukraine is now targeting Russia's economic infrastructure wherever it operates, and expanding the battlefield far beyond traditional combat zones. Video footage shows both tankers suffering critical damage, immobilized and sending black smoke into the sky, a powerful message to Moscow and the international community alike. Ukraine wasn't just attacking ships, it was attacking the economic bloodstream of Russia's war effort. To understand why these strikes shook Moscow and alarmed Ankara, we need to look at the weapon that made them possible: the Sea Baby naval drone. These aren't ordinary boats, they're high-speed, explosive-laden drones developed by Ukraine's security service, SBU, and upgraded with assistance from the Ministry of Digital Transformation. By 2025, the Sea Baby has quietly become one of the most feared systems in the Black Sea. Sea Baby drones combine satellite navigation, AI-assisted targeting, and onboard cameras to identify and strike moving targets with deadly precision. Traveling at nearly 90 kilometers per hour, they can evade radar detection, patrols, and obstacles, reaching targets that traditional missiles might miss. What sets them apart is cost-effectiveness. Deploying a Sea Baby costs a fraction of a conventional missile or naval vessel, yet they carry 200 to 850 kilograms of explosives, enough to disable even large oil tankers or warships. These drones have already proven their combat capability, damaging the Kerch Bridge, sinking or disabling Russian landing ships and patrol vessels, forcing Russia's Black Sea fleet to retreat, disrupting the Kremlin's confidence in its control over the Black Sea. When the Sea Baby drones raced toward Kairos and Virat, they weren't improvising. They were executing a well-coordinated doctrine: strike Russia's economic arteries, weaken its war machine, and do it in a way that maximizes global impact. So why did Ukraine target these two vessels, the Kairos and the Virat, out of hundreds in Russia's Shadow Fleet? Because these tankers aren't just ships, they are economic lifelines. They are part of the Kremlin's massive, unregulated parallel shipping network, often called the Shadow Fleet, a collection of aging tankers bought through shell companies, insured through grey zone brokers, and operated deliberately outside Western oversight. This fleet exists for one reason: to keep Russia's oil profits flowing despite sanctions. And oil isn't just another export for Moscow. Oil is the oxygen of the Russian war machine. Oil is the oxygen of the Russian military. Every ship that sails from Novorossiysk, Primorsk, or Ust-Luga carries energy that powers drones, missiles, artillery, and the salaries of soldiers fighting in Ukraine. The timing of the strike was critical. Novorossiysk bound. These vessels were en route to load oil. Striking them before they picked up cargo removes them from the supply chain at its most vulnerable point. Large-scale capacity. The Kairos is about 274 meters long, and Virat is similarly massive. Disabling ships of this size sends both a military and commercial shockwave. Sanction evasion. The Shadow Fleet allows Russia to bypass price caps and sell oil above Western-imposed limits. Removing these tankers directly cuts into Moscow's revenue streams. Strategic reach. Both strikes occurred near Turkish waters, proving that no route is safe, even in zones Russia considered untouchable. In short, these tankers were not symbolic targets. They were central to Russia's ability to finance its war, and Ukraine just demonstrated that even these untouchable assets can be neutralized. The Kairos and Virat are officially sanctioned vessels. The Kairos has previously transported Urals crude to India, bypassing price caps and sanctions. The Virat was added to the US sanctions list on January 10, 2025. Both vessels are now officially recognized as part of Moscow's Shadow Fleet, yet they continued operating, making them prime targets for Ukraine. Combined, these tankers can transport nearly $70 million worth of oil per voyage, depending on global market prices. That's billions in potential revenue every year that flows directly into the Kremlin's military-industrial complex. By striking these ships, Ukraine is not just sinking hulls, it's cutting off a critical funding stream for Russia's war effort. This operation proves that even sanctioned vessels can be rendered ineffective when Kyiv applies military precision to economic targets. The strikes on Kairos and Virat are part of a broader Ukrainian strategy to cripple Russia's oil-dependent war machine. For months, Ukraine has been targeting Russian refineries, oil depots and storage facilities, transport infrastructure behind the front lines. The goal is clear: disrupt Russia's oil supply chain and reduce its ability to fund military operations. The Shadow Fleet has been Moscow's main tool to circumvent sanctions, but by neutralizing tankers, Ukraine directly attacks the fleet's effectiveness. The consequences are immediate: rising insurance premiums for Russian oil shipments, operational disruptions for Western companies like Exxon, Chevron, and Shell, market uncertainty for countries relying on Russian crude. Ukraine's military operations are no longer limited to defending territory. They now strike the heart of Russia's war economy, forcing Moscow to defend its shipping lanes and economic lifelines simultaneously. As the security service of Ukraine told Reuters, video shows that after being hit, both tankers sustained critical damage and were effectively taken out of service. This will deal a significant blow to Russian oil transportation. Ukraine is making the point: Moscow's war machine is vulnerable, not just on the battlefield, but in its very ability to fund itself. While the strikes themselves are noteworthy, the most significant development is the diplomatic and economic ripple effect they have triggered. First, the Caspian Pipeline Consortium, CPC, halted operations after Ukrainian drones damaged a mooring at Novorossiysk. CPC manages over 1% of the world's oil supply, so this disruption has global implications, affecting both energy markets and multinational companies. Kazakhstan's Foreign Minister, Aybek Smadiyarov, expressed his anger. These incidents are unacceptable. Kazakhstan attaches particular importance to ensuring a stable and uninterrupted energy supply. This incident has harmed relations with Ukraine. The strikes illustrate three major points. Global economic shockwaves. Even a temporary halt in oil flow creates price spikes and market instability. Regional diplomacy at risk. Kazakhstan's frustration could push it closer to Russia, complicating Ukraine's strategic position in Central Asia. Russia's vulnerability. Moscow's silence demonstrates embarrassment and highlights its inability to protect the shadow fleet. Ukraine has moved from battlefield success to economic leverage, proving it can influence regional and global dynamics beyond traditional combat zones. The strikes also drew concern from Turkey, since both Kairos and Virat were hit inside its exclusive economic zone. A Turkish Foreign Ministry spokesperson, Oncu Koçeli, said, "These incidents, which occurred within Turkey's exclusive economic zone in the Black Sea, have posed serious risks to the safety of navigation, life, property, and the environment in the region. We are maintaining our contacts with the relevant parties to prevent the spread and further escalation of the war across the Black Sea, and to avoid any negative impact on Turkey's economic interests and activities in the region." Turkey faces a delicate balancing act, a NATO member supporting Ukraine's sovereignty while maintaining direct relations with Moscow. Controlling the Bosporus and Dardanelles, Ankara holds leverage over Black Sea access, making it a key player in any escalation. Ukraine's strikes highlight that the Black Sea is no longer just a military theatre. It is a front line in economic warfare. Every action carries diplomatic and trade implications, forcing Ankara to carefully mediate between Kyiv and Moscow. The attacks also intersect with ongoing diplomatic negotiations between Ukraine and the United States. Following political shifts in Kyiv, President Volodymyr Zelensky sent a delegation led by Rustem Umerov to Washington to discuss potential agreements to end the war. This followed the resignation of Andriy Yermak, Zelensky's former chief of staff and lead negotiator, after an anti-corruption investigation. The timing of the drone strikes was strategic. By hitting Russia's Shadow Fleet tankers, Ukraine sent a clear message. To Russia, Ukraine can strike economic assets anywhere, showing Moscow's vulnerability. To the US, Kyiv can independently pressure Moscow, strengthening its position at the negotiation table. US envoy Steve Witkoff is set to meet Moscow officials, and these strikes could reshape the bargaining power in upcoming talks. Ukraine is essentially turning military operations into diplomatic leverage, demonstrating that its capabilities extend far beyond the battlefield. As one security analyst noted, Ukraine's economic strikes are a form of negotiation by fire, showing that military innovation can directly influence diplomatic outcomes. In 2025, this conflict is no longer purely kinetic. It is a mix of military innovation, economic warfare, and strategic diplomacy, and Ukraine is proving it can play all three simultaneously. The strike on Kairos and Virat is more than a tactical victory. It's a message to Moscow, Ankara, Kazakhstan, and the world. Ukraine can hit Russia's war machine wherever it operates, on land, at sea, or in its shadow economy. Turkey is watching, Kazakhstan is concerned, and the US is taking notes as peace talks loom. Russia, meanwhile, remains silent, showing that even its so-called safe routes are no longer untouchable. The battlefield is no longer measured only in tanks or missiles. It's measured in economic arteries, shipping lanes, and strategic leverage. One thing is certain, the Black Sea is no longer just water. It's a front line that could redefine the course of this war. Stay informed, because the next move in this high-stakes geopolitical chess game could happen at any moment, and it will impact not just Ukraine and Russia, but the global energy market and the world's geopolitical balance.